All right. Welcome back to Beyond the Signs podcast, everybody.
I'm your host, Omar Hamouda.
And I'm your co-host, 𝐅𝐎𝐋𝐋𝐿𝐼.
Is it co-host or just another host? So I'm a co-host, not a host.
You are a co-host,
exactly.
For sure.
I am so sorry about that. We're going to scratch that lower third to say co-host now.
Perfect. Now we're on the same wavelength here.
Absolutely. That's what Beyond the Signs is
The hierarchy doesn't exist anymore. No, I'm kidding.
It never did exist.
I'm kidding.
It never did. I am not that kind of guy.
I'm kidding. I know that.
All right. So our topic for today is actually about, does Instagram count as a portfolio, as a professional portfolio, I want to say, versus a website?
Yes. We're saying the same things because we literally think the same in terms of creative.
Absolutely. She finished all my
sandwiches.
I was actually thinking about that. Oh, wow. We're on the same wavelength. That's actually really interesting. But anyway, okay, so let's get into it. So what is your stance on websites versus Instagram, or Instagram versus websites?
It's so hard for me to answer that question because on one hand, everybody that I grew up aspiring to be like as a photographer in high school, in college, once I started getting into the field, like I see them all and am inspired by all of them through Instagram and through Twitter and through these social media platforms and now through TikTok. And it's so interesting because for a long time, I wouldn't even know my favorite photographer had a website because all I would know was his or her Instagram. And it's so interesting that once I find out, I'm like, wow, they've had this website for a while and nobody looks at it. I mean, and I'm sure that people look at it, but more in a professional sense, like clients look at it and companies that want to work with that person look at it. And the curious, casual Instagram, person who's looking on Instagram scrolling, like they'll look at it. But most people look at their Instagram and their feed, and that is what they consider to be all of their work laid out for people to see and judge and decide whether they want to work with that person because of. So it's really interesting that you could have both, but what do people gravitate more towards in this day and age versus 20, 30 years ago?
Right. So your stance is that you can use Instagram as a portfolio.
Yeah, I definitely think that you can use it as a portfolio to a certain extent. For years now, for years and years, I used Instagram strictly as a portfolio. Like I didn't have a website. Or if I did have a website, the website I had was a complete joke. And didn't really truly reflect my work. And so Instagram was my main form of pushing out my content in a way that like people saw it and wanted to work with me. That was my goal, is to make my feed look the best so that when anyone, asked for my Instagram, if I was at a networking event or just hanging out with friends or whatever the situation is with a client, they asked for my Instagram, they were pleasantly surprised by what they saw. But I think that at the end of the day, that's just because of how social media has taken over in the creative space. I think traditionally, portfolio website is the way to go in terms of professionalism and
right.
Getting actual clients and working with companies. But it really depends, because if you have a big social media presence, that's what big companies look for.
See, and that's where I wanted to actually chime in, where I don't think Instagram is a portfolio. I truly do not like it as a portfolio. I do not tell my clients this, hey, look at my Instagram, that's my portfolio, because of that like stigma of followers out there. Instagram to me is a way, and will always be, as what they first pitched out back in 2011, it's a way to connect with people through images of what they're doing, right? For me, it's just a moment of what I'm doing or telling a story. It's just a fun way for me to express myself. But do I show that to my actual clients? Absolutely not. I show them my website. For me, it's just the professional sense of what is the standard of the industry. Kind of like when it comes to like thinking about like how cars are made. Like there's industry standards of cars, right? Now, it's I'm not the analogy I want to put is like Instagram would be kind of like that play car that you would get for your like kids that like they use, but can you call that a car at the end of the day? No, right? It's a way to get started on driving and learning the fundamentals when you're younger. But as you get older, it's I don't want to say it's better to make a website portfolio, but I think is if you really take yourself in that serious manner, I think making that website is the first start because here's the ideal sense of where I think a website does better than Instagram. Instagram compresses your files, compresses your full of
Like
images,
no other.
and compresses your images, compresses your videos. If you remember, like months ago when we went to Vermont and I posted that video on Instagram, you're like, "Hey, isn't that the drone shots you took in Vermont?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, why is it so like blurry? It's because of that factor. But on the back end of websites, they're capable of holding your full quality.
Absolutely.
So like when you show clients like, "Hey, here's my actual like portfolio," they look at the video, they look at the pictures like, "Wow." And like also like when it comes to the perspective of wanting to do digital arts, like selling your prints and stuff like that, you can do that easily with a website. You can do that all in one. Instagram is and forever will be a place to like get interacted with a different profession. Like I don't think we should like disuse that, but it's a way to connect with other professionals that you want to like check out their work and ask for a portfolio to see that. Cause like the lazy way out, they can say, "Oh, just check my Instagram. That's all my portfolio." But like, what was it? Like a 2-second post? While a website, it shows the way you curate a page, the way you like really formulate like how you put and display your actual work. And it shows like you can do so much with a website.
I totally agree with what you're saying. In terms of the fact that I do think it's more professional. I do think it's more legit. But at the same time, I think there are so many creators out there who are actually getting work, like steady work from their Instagram.
Absolutely. I didn't say like it wasn't a place to get work. No, I definitely get work because people see my Instagram.
But that's what I'm saying. Like that's the part where you're like, are you taken seriously? Is your portfolio is your work on Instagram taken seriously by people to be considered to the point where it's considered kind of a portfolio?
But I guess that's where the question comes in. What do you hold as a portfolio to like what does it mean to have a portfolio? Is it a way to get jobs or is it a way to display your work in the best quality ever?
Totally. I really like the analogy that you used with the toy car as a kid because I think it's really interesting to think of it as kind of a training wheel effect where your Instagram feed is like your training wheels.
Absolutely.
Where it's like you have your work on there, but is that it? Is that your full potential right there laid out?
And like
then you point them to your website.
Exactly. And there's fun ways to like you can mess around with your grid. Like for example, one of the things I do is I'm aware of like the 9x9s, the 3x1s, the 6x2s. Like use the grid to your advantage. But it also comes with a limitation. Like how further can you go? Like sometimes feed can go as much as that 1x1 ratio when people are looking at it. But like with a website, you can fully develop it to be something that really talks about what you do as your creative work. Because I can tell you for a fact, like when people look at my website versus my Instagram, they're like, it's completely different.
Same here.
Yeah, because like your Instagram is just quick post of like what it is that you do or like what pictures you worked on recently or what work you worked on versus a website where they can actually see the whole story, read about like each picture, each video, each work you've done, and it really tells a story from there. Because like, and it also comes to the perspective of what is it your profession? Like there are so many creators out there that do use Instagram as a professional career, but like I think we're thinking of it more as on the photography and videography side, but we forget that there's other artistic people out there, like
Absolutely.
graphic designers. They like now in this day and age, there's a lot of NFTs and stuff like that in communities and stuff like that, where like yeah, they have Instagram to promote their like digital art, but they have websites of the actual build community to kind of gainer this view of like professionalism, or like sort of this um the like the blue check mark that they have verification. So your website is sort of your verification of how professional you want to take your career, or where you see yourself at.
I think that's really interesting because personally, I think Instagram is trying to make the app a one-stop shop because of the fact that they've added the shop feature to the Instagram. So if you are selling a product, like I sell these hoodies, right? If I wanted to link these hoodies on my Instagram, people could go on my Instagram profile and shop my hoodie. I think that's so interesting because it doesn't parallel, in my opinion, to having a website where you sell your hoodies or your merch or a product or a lens in your case or whatever it may be. I think that the platform is very much trying to be a one-stop shop. But is it working for everybody? That's a good question, because I don't know if that's the answer is yes to that, you know?
Absolutely. There's no definitive answer. Like
Right.
I'm on the standpoint where I like here's the reality when it comes to app designing, right? You can do so many features. But if your key feature or what you were known for is lackluster, then the app dies. That's what Instagram, to me, I feel it's where it's at right now, isn't where it used to be 10 years ago.
Oh,
10 years ago, it
absolutely.
was about posting. And it was interesting too, because like people understood the real factor of Instagram. Like I connected with people all over the world just because I put pictures of what I was drawing.
Right.
At the time, like my Instagram started out as like me drawing. Like it wasn't like I only had one Instagram account, never changed it, always stayed the same. Maybe changed the username, but always stayed like what it was till this day right now, which is Omar M. Hamouda. But like back then, it was just my art, right?
Mhm.
And it wasn't like I was using it as a portfolio. It was just a way of expressing myself. This is what I'm working on right now. And like people like liked it and stuff like that, right? Now you have like nowadays you have millions or billions of different accounts that do certain different things. And that's where I feel like it lacked its luster, because when you have the web that does everything that you needed to while you search, Instagram is trying to compete in that same platform where it's that one-stop shop. But really, how like intuitive is it to really look for something or to really use its feature? Like its key feature is lost now.
Mhm.
Like you can't see what people are doing. Now it's literally about what are people trying to show off. That's what the
Absolutely.
app is about now. And I think that's where it comes to play. Is like, can I really call Instagram a portfolio? Absolutely not.
No, and I think that's a different question from, is Instagram a place where you can gain opportunities? That's a different question than, is it considered a portfolio? Because I agree. I don't think that professionally it's considered a portfolio, because if a really serious and professional client or company came to me asking to see my work, I give them my website. I do.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't always like that, because I was once, an 18, 19-year-old who was very, very passionate about this stuff. And all I had was my Instagram,
Absolutely.
and nowadays, even people who are just starting out, like, know well enough probably to know to create a website along with,
Absolutely.
your
Now
Instagram,
you have like platforms like, I will not mention their names because we're not sponsored by them.
right.
But there's a lot of like self-building websites, and I think that is a great start for someone who really wants to take their work to the next level, is to actually build out a very intuitive website to kind of help them showcase what they do as work, whether it be like you're a dentist or like you're a car enthusiast, or like if you're just so unlike an actor. Like nowadays you have actors like like making their own website, showing their own pictures, showing their
Yeah, they
own
have their
stuff that,
headshots, their
yeah,
reels. Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely. So like why not be at that level where like you actually use if you're serious about it, if it's something as a hobby, keep your Instagram as your portfolio.
Right. And that's what I mean when I say it's a different question. With, does it get you opportunities? Because my first shoot with a person in California, I was 17 or 18, maybe I had just turned 18. And it was somebody that I had kind of became a pen pal with over Instagram and a friend with over Instagram for months at that point. And he was like, "You're in LA, I'm in Malibu. Come, like, let's shoot." I was with my mom. We were touring schools. I had never met this person before. She was terrified. She was like, "Where are you going? Who are you meeting with? You said you've never met this person? What do you mean you've only talked with them on Instagram? Like, what does that mean?" And I was like, "Mom, don't worry about it. I think I'm a good judge of character. I know if someone's really creepy or not, or if I get any sort of weird vibes, I'm out." Which obviously it's not foolproof, and you don't always know that. So be very, very, very careful when you're going to meet somebody, going to meet a client, going to meet anybody, anything.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like my next question, like my next point is that how like comfortable would you be if someone professionally emailed you saying like, oh, they want you to like help them or like be on their next gig or something like that?
Mhm.
Like a company hitting you up telling you like, hey, like we have this product that we would like for you to try. Like just a simple like DMs, like like the
It's
notion
so
of DMs.
informal
Exactly. So like
that it's almost too lax
exactly.
to where you don't know how to respond to somebody if they come to you more professionally.
Exactly.
Totally.
So like if we're gonna take the DMs as sort of that, like it's unprofessional to DM me, then it's unprofessional that I have an Instagram as a portfolio.
Right. Definitely. I mean, you can have an Instagram, people might DM you or not, whether you consider it a portfolio. If you post things on your Instagram, people are going to DM you.
Absolutely. But you know what I tell them? I have
a website.
I have a website, an inquiry form. Please fill it out.
Absolutely.
And I will get back to you at a responsible time.
And when I was 18, I mean, that was amazing. I linked up with this guy and never met him before. And it was an amazing experience. I mean, he was a really sweet person. He wasn't creepy. I got really lucky, honestly. He actually had gone to the school that I really wanted to go to and was giving me, tips and advice on, the fact that I was out there touring the schools that I wanted to go to, that I was interested in, and we've remained friends to this day. And that's a really amazing part about Instagram, is that it allows you to connect with people. But is it considered a portfolio? I think we would both agree, no.
Absolutely. So I got you on that no factor then.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, that talk really swayed me a certain way, because you started talking about some of those points that you had, and I was like, you know what? That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
It's just whether people consider it to be,
yeah.
or not.
Like, I mean, like,
we consider it not to be, but other people might, and they might get gigs off of it, and that's fine for them. But you're right. When it comes to a certain professional point, you don't know how to act when you're approached professionally if all you've ever done is through Instagram DM.
Right. And that's what I think, that Instagram is a great training wheel, but it should like move forward to a fully fledged. It doesn't even have to be a fully fledged website, just something simple that people could take a look at and say, hey, this guy's real.
Right.
Or this lady, she's a swell lady. She knows her way around.
We want her on our project.
Exactly.
We want her on our budget.
Exactly. And with that being said, I think that's the end of the podcast. Thank you all for watching. if you enjoyed this episode, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button.
Do it.
Instagram, Twitter, follow it. And the Facebook is up. I checked this morning.
It's up.
Please
know that it's up.
It's up. So with that being said, thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, guys.